Hold on, my dog's walking by.
Max.
Bastard. Which means he's probably going to walk down the stairs again, but, fuck it.
As long as he doesn't fall.
He might. He's got bad legs now. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Mebois Podcast, episode 17. I'm Josh.
And I'm Ray.
Today, let's start it off with my dog walking down the stairs. Here he comes.
Did he fall? It got a little louder towards the end.
Yeah, it was a bit of a trip, maybe not a fall. Those stairs aren't carpeted, that's probably why. I was noticing the other day he's got these long ass claws. He needs to get his fucking nails trimmed. But anyway, Spider-Man. You know who else needs his nails trimmed? Spider-Man. So you saw Spider-Man Far From Home.
I did indeed. I saw it a few days ago, and initial viewing, I think...
For the folks at home, could you describe what Spider-Man is? Jamie, could you pull up?
So he's a guy dressed as a spider.
So it's sort of in the name, right? He's a spider, he's a man, but there's more to it than that. He also loves a girl. Sometimes she's white, sometimes she's black.
Yep.
And that will cut into our other conversation later.
Yep. Should I get spoiler? Talk about spoilers?
Well, let's do a little spoiler warning here.
Okay.
If you don't want to hear spoilers about Far From Home, skip ahead. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we'll tell you when to skip ahead in the description.
Timestamp.
All right, so first watch the movie, and it's a fun movie. I think that's what the MCU does. They make really fun movies.
Yeah.
Even if maybe the characters and the story is flawed, it's still a good time.
Mm-hmm.
So for the most part, that distracted me. And the mid-credit scene, which I told you about, really distracted me. It made me not focus on the story and the character and things like that because, well, as I told you, J.K. Simmons is back as J. Jonah Jameson. And
Perfect.
I'm watching the mid-credit scene. It's like getting exciting, and then it flips to like somewhere in Times Square, and it's J. Jonah Jameson. He's got like a similar setting to Alex Jones, where he's in a little studio and he's sitting on a desk, and so he comes back, and I jump out of my seat because I'm really excited, and I start hitting my friend who's next to me. I'm like, holy shit, look, it's
Start punching him in the face.
J. Jonah Jameson, he's back. And after that, I immediately thought, man, that's bad if that's really the one scene in the movie that got me off my seat like that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, isn't it?
It's fun. The movie's fun, but I think my feelings
should have had
about
more J. Jonah.
that would have probably it would have helped more with the distraction part of it. But
Yeah.
The things we've talked about on this podcast before with my problems with this version of Peter Parker are still there.
Mm-hmm.
He's given everything. He doesn't really face any consequences for his actions or the world around him. So the snap happens from Endgame, but very conveniently, no one in Peter's life was around. Everyone in his life snapped away with him.
Oh, okay.
I mean, so
So no one really had to react to his death?
No one had to react to his death because they were gone too. You know, MJ, his friend Ned, his other side character classmates, Aunt May. Like the Aunt May one, I think would have been perfect if she was around, and she would have had to deal with the loss of her nephew.
Right, and Uncle Ben.
And Uncle Ben. And then there's the Uncle Ben thing.
What if Uncle Ben had the Infinity Gauntlet?
Just before he snaps with great power.
That'd be sick, dude.
That would be pretty sick.
Like, yeah. Have they had multiple versions of Uncle Ben? Because I know they've done that with Aunt May, but have they really retold the Uncle Ben thing after like the first movies, or has it just always been like he's dead?
At least in the movies, he's always been the guy who dies.
No, but I mean, like, do they redo that scene with like a different actor?
Yeah, they did it with the Andrew Garfield one.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not saying that the MCU should have had a scene where where we see Uncle Ben die again, because I think the fact that as a viewing audience we've seen it happen twice in the last 10 years.
He's already dead.
Yeah. Leave him alone. So we don't have to see that. What we do have to see is what impact that has on Peter's life.
Yes. In the same way, it would be better if we saw the impact of Peter's death on the people in his life.
Right. But conveniently, everyone is snapped away. So,
but I mean, you see the other characters reacting to it, right?
Not really. So when the movie opens, the first song that plays is Whitney Houston's "I Will Always Love You," and then it's a little it's a little montage of all the heroes who died in Endgame. Mm-hmm. And it's
trying to get that Endgame money.
Yeah, it's a meme. So immediately I'm like, oh, did Peter make some sort of video tribute for Tony Stark, because Tony Stark was his hero and he made this little video?
Right. And
I was just like, yeah, because that seems really off-putting if Peter made that video and Tony Stark was supposed to be this new father figure for him. It's it's a video his high school news room did to acknowledge the blip, as they called it, because they don't know it's a snap. But it kind of set the tone for the movie, the fact that Endgame was a meme in the first minute of it.
So they were using it in a funny way, or is that just how you're interpreting?
No, it was definitely used in a funny way. Because they used the song and then they used like these really close-up pictures of Iron Man and Cap and everyone else.
Weird.
Yeah, so it's people have covered this on YouTube. They're like, how am I supposed to take the movie seriously when the movie doesn't take Endgame seriously?
Well, I was about to say maybe that's the point, because I mean, Spider-Man's kind of notoriously like a less serious kind of superhero.
Right, especially this version.
Right, not quite a Deadpool, but not quite a Captain America either.
Yeah.
So is that sort of, do you think that was what they were going for, or do you think it was just...
I think the movie struggled to decide what kind of movie it wanted to be.
Yeah.
Because they definitely wanted it to be like a teen comedy, high school class goes to Europe type thing. But then he
also saved the fucking world and just recently said that.
But there were also these scenes, and Tom Holland is such a good actor. Mm-hmm. There's also these scenes where he's trying to struggle with his identity, and he's like, he just wants to be a kid. He doesn't really want to be a hero. Mm-hmm. But there were so few of those scenes, and they were so far between each other that the tone kind of gets lost a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think, did we talk about this last time? I feel like we did. Maybe we talked about it off air. I can't remember, but no one has succeeded as well at encapsulating the sort of unsure and sort of realistic Peter Parker as well as Toby.
Yeah, we discussed it a little bit.
Yeah. Even though ironically Tom Holland looks younger than Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
Tobey Maguire still did a more realistic teenager trying to overcome his anxieties and whatnot and be a superhero.
Yeah. I think I feel like when most people try to defend the Raimi trilogy or say the Raimi trilogy is the best, they kind of just get called out for being a Raimi fanboy.
Sounds like a slur. You're a Raimi.
So it's, I don't know. I think generally Peter Parker stories are ones of, struggling with identity and struggling with the fact that you have to be two heroes. Two people. You have to be Peter Parker and you have to be Spider-Man. Which one's more important?
Right. And you have responsibility to family like Aunt May and whatnot. And you've got this growing responsibility of the entire city on your back.
Exactly. And back to the Uncle Ben thing. It's kind of weird that Tony Stark could mean so much more to Peter Parker than Uncle Ben does.
Yeah, that's kind of funny, right?
It's weird because traditionally, that's the moment he learns he has to be a hero, is because he inadvertently leads Uncle Ben to his death.
Right. I mean, that's the line. With great power comes great responsibility. He learns what that responsibility is right then.
Mm-hmm, because he was being irresponsible. He could have prevented Uncle Ben dying. So in the Raimi movie, he lies about going to the library, and Uncle Ben comes to pick him up and gets shot because a guy carjacks him. In the Andrew Garfield one, they have a fight. Andrew Garfield sort of...
Garfield shoots him.
He not really runs away, he just kind of steps out for a long time. Goes to a convenience store, and while he's in the convenience store, he lets the guy robbing the store get away. Because the guy wouldn't let him, the cashier wouldn't let him buy a chocolate milk, even though he was like 50 cents short or whatever like that. Yeah.
Ooh, that's pretty good scene there. The old chocolate milk murders.
Yeah, it's not like you just got denied $3,000, so you let the guy off the hook. In the Raimi one. But whatever.
Right, yeah.
He's out. The guy who robs the store runs away. He runs into Uncle Ben. Shoots Uncle Ben.
Spoilers.
Yeah. So, in this one, the only mention of Uncle Ben is that we see Uncle Ben's luggage. That's the luggage he uses to go to Europe.
Oh, okay.
So it has his initials on it, which is pretty. It's a nice touch, but then
UB. Never knew his first name. I was about to say Peter Man, Spider-Man. So I was thinking about names. Peter Man. Yeah, like so. Tobey Maguire is sort of Peter Man, and then these other guys are Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Pizza time.
But Mysterio, I thought was really cool.
Right.
And then there are a couple.
Wait, Jake Gyllenhaal was Mysterio, right?
Jake Gyllenhaal was Mysterio, the guy who almost replaced Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 2.
Interesting. Okay, yeah.
I was watching.
I finally got you, Spidey.
Yeah, I was watching a video about like the whole history of that and how that situation almost happened.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he was Mysterio, and I thought he was cool, and I love his costume. It looks really awesome. And the scenes with Mysterio, where Mysterio does his illusions and whatever, were really amazing, visually.
Right, good CG.
Yeah, it was amazing CG. Now, Mysterio, we find out, is a disgruntled former Stark employee.
Okay.
And basically what he's doing is he's trying to take Tony Stark's AI
From the suit?
From the sunglasses that he gives to Peter Parker.
Oh, okay. I'm unaware of all this shit.
Yeah, so Tony Stark gifts Peter AI because it's like it's called Edith. It's all in the sunglasses and everything, so he has access to it. Mysterio tricks everyone into thinking he's a hero, when really it's all CG through drones and whatever. And he's like a cool uncle, basically, to Peter Parker.
Okay, yeah.
They can talk. They're hired to work together. And then Peter, being in Europe, wanting to talk to MJ and whatever, is sort of just like... Well, before he gives him the sunglasses, Mysterio pretends to sacrifice himself for killed as one of these monsters. It's all a ploy so that Peter will give him these sunglasses, and he does. And he
So the MacGuffin of this film is sunglasses. Also, isn't that sort of like the thing with Into the Spider-Verse or whatever, where the villain is the cool uncle?
Well, yeah, that's Miles Morales' uncle is a villain.
Right.
The Prowler.
I mean, that's sort of like a classic trope, right? Is having like the cool older guy.
Yeah.
Who's showing you the ropes, and oh wait,
mm-hmm.
I've learned from him, and now I've learned that he's evil, and now I have to stop him, sort of thing.
Yeah. So once he gets the sunglasses, he celebrates with his team, because he has a whole team of like geniuses who pull off this like computer graphic villains and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So they fight and whatever. Towards the end, Spider-Man wins. There was another cool CG scene where Spider-Man has to trust his Spidey sense. And this is the first time they've actually talked about this version having a Spidey sense, but they don't call it a Spidey sense. They call it a Peter Tingle.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
That's disgusting. Oh, I feel really tingly.
But it was cool, you know. He because Mysterio turns this hallway into a nightmare scenario for him. So what he does is, and he's out of web shooters. Web shooters run out.
Mm-hmm.
So he has to just trust his instincts. So he closes his eyes and then just listens for the drones and takes the drones
Starts
down.
to tingle.
Yeah. And then he takes down Mysterio. We think that's the end of the movie. Mysterio is defeated, possibly dead, probably not dead, knowing the MCU. And Peter gets the girl. A girl who, I guess, the relationship was never really built until this movie.
Is this Zendaya?
Yeah, Zendaya.
Zendaya.
So movie ends and then it goes to the mid-credit scene. And the reason why J. Jonah is brought up is because Mysterio, in his final act, convinces the world that Spider-Man killed him, and he was behind the drone attack, and he doctored footage, and blah, blah, blah. So he made it seem like Peter was the one behind all these attacks.
Very relevant message in the age of deep fakes.
That and his whole thing was, you know, people, now that Iron Man is gone and they've just witnessed half the population go and things like that, people will believe anything. People will want to believe anything. So his plan was to become the new Iron Man, the new pariah for everyone, the new hero. That didn't work, so what did he do? He gave them a villain. So he's saying Spider-Man
sort of
did
like 9/11 did. Sorry. So let me just say, so it's a bit weird to me because, like, so I thought at least it was like a standalone Spider-Man movie. But is that fair to say? Or, I mean, you're saying it's the cinematic universe, but I feel like it's just weird that Iron Man, or the idea of Iron Man, is such a big plot point in this Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, that's sort of what I don't like about this version of Spider-Man. He's always going to be in the shadow of Iron Man. And
Yeah, and like we did those movies.
Yeah,
Those movies are done.
Yeah, his like Spider-Man as a commodity, as a franchise, is much bigger than Iron Man.
Right. Yeah.
He's like Peter Parker, Spider-Man. Is a much more popular story than Iron Man. And I get Iron Man is in this world, in this fictional world, he's the OG. But looking outside of it, it's weird. Oh, but at the final seconds of Mysterio's doctored footage, he says Spider-Man's name is Peter Parker, and then a picture of Peter Parker.
And then a Peter Man appears.
Tobey Maguire. So they show Peter's picture in the middle of Times Square, and that's what J. Jonah is broadcasting.
Oh, okay. And then it cuts to a dark room. A cigarette lights up a face. It's Tobey Maguire, and he says, "I'm getting too old for this shit."
Gonna cry?
Huh, okay. So
I missed the part where that's my problem.
I only know pizza time.
Well, this is what I'll say. So even Mysterio, who's a classic Spider-Man villain, in this movie, is actually a Iron Man villain, a Tony Stark villain.
Right, because he was an employee at Stark Industries.
Yeah. And the whole team
let me
behind
ask
Mysterio is also former Tony Stark employees who are disgruntled.
Right.
And
Does
Vulture in the
Mysterio-
last movie. Sorry, Vulture in the last movie was also the creation of what Iron Man did. In the last Spider-Man movie.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I just can't get away from Iron Man. Does Mysterio have powers, or is it all like technology?
It's all technology, which is
Interesting.
he's never had power. He's always been an illusionist. So that part of it was cool to see how he was gonna pull off his stuff.
Little baby Doctor Strange.
That's what his powers looked like. It looked like something that Doctor Strange could do.
Right, that's the impression that I got. I mean, I think that sets up kind of an interesting idea for a movie where the identity is revealed. I mean, that's sort of been done to death everywhere, I guess. But
Yeah.
like, it is sort of interesting to see, if it's done well, to see the reaction and how you change up your crime fighting style and the general pace of the movie if everyone knows your identity.
Yeah, I think I don't hate that idea of it, that he reveals Peter Parker's secret identity.
No.
I think because in a modern world where anyone can snap a picture of you with your mask off, and this Peter Parker takes off his mask a lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's much more realistic that somebody would know and then just blast it everywhere.
Exactly. So I think for even the Tobey Maguire days, the identity thing kind of works. I don't think it works as well now, especially considering every superhero around Spider-Man, you know who they are. That's their day-to-day life, We know Captain America is Steve Rogers. We know Tony Stark is Iron Man.
Right.
So that part of it was fine for me. But it'll be interesting to see if they do try to do traditional Peter Parker stories, because traditional Peter Parker stories are struggling with your identity.
It's working at the pizza place. It's pizza time.
Pizza time.
He stole that guy's pizza. I always talk about how I prefer the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, but the only scenes I know are the pizza ones.
Yeah, late.
Did you know that she was in Bones? I swear we had this fucking conversation every podcast. Yeah, I don't know. It seems, my impression of it is just way too much Iron Man for my Spider-Man movie.
Yeah. It's time to move on.
And to move on from Iron Man on to a movie released 10 years ago, Prometheus.
Was it 10 years?
No, I think it was 7.
Okay.
I don't know. That's what it said on the box. Like, because they never say what year it was released. It just has like the copyright or whatever. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I saw it was copyright 2012. But yeah, I this past weekend, basically, I rewatched on one day. I guess actually watched the first Alien, in 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray, which I thought I had watched, but I think really what I was equating to Alien 1 was actually Alien 2, like the one where Ridley is in a mech suit.
Aliens?
So,
is that the second one?
Oh, right, yeah. It's not really titled Alien 2, right?
Yeah, so the first one is Alien. Wow, it came out in 79.
Yeah.
And then Aliens, 86.
Right, I think that's the one I was equating to the first one. So I don't think I've ever watched the first one. So I watched that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched Prometheus because it was also a Ultra HD Blu-ray of that.
No, Prometheus is a prequel.
It's a prequel to Alien.
Okay.
And I think everything like related to Prometheus, because there's like another thing, right? There's at least one more thing. I think there's multiple.
Covenant.
Alien Covenant might be before Alien. I can't remember really.
Alien Covenant came out in 2017, and it has Michael Fassbender.
Anyway, I mean, I'm not really here to talk about the all the Alien timelines, because that could get a little weird too. But I'd always heard mixed things about Prometheus.
Mm-hmm.
But since we had it, I'm like, okay, let's watch it. And since I just watched Alien, because I enjoyed Alien, I think I might enjoy Aliens better than Alien. I don't know, but it was a good movie.
Which one is the one where Ripley has to save a little girl?
I believe that's Aliens.
That's Aliens. Okay.
Yeah. Good. Classic line.
You cut out right before you said the classic line, and all I heard was classic line.
I said, "Get away from her, you bitch!"
Oh yeah. I know that line.
And she's using like basically a forklift, but it's a mech. Mm-hmm. And she's fighting I think it's like an alien queen.
Yeah.
Or some bigger alien. But anyway, Prometheus. The problem I had right away with Prometheus was that it's sort of my problem with a lot of space movies that I've been talking about somewhat recently, and I've been watching them, is that I sort of had to suspend my disbelief, not in the fact that, oh, we're in space, we're in spaceships, or these are so advanced. No, but like, has space travel really gotten common enough that we just allow complete idiots and antisocial people in space? Because like, at least like right now, and we've been going to space for a while, but it's certainly not commonplace. Like there's like so much screening that you have to go through to make sure like you won't fucking go crazy on the space station. You start like killing people. Like there's so much screening to make sure that you'll be a functional, valuable member of the team. You'll get along with people. You'll be able to problem solve, all that. In these movies, I mean, this is true in Alien as well, but and what I'm saying this is true is these people are just kind of like complete idiots who can't work as a team and are actually like actively antisocial.
Yeah.
And that's how the movie characterizes them, but it makes no sense that they would be in space.
Yeah.
It sort of makes sense in Alien because they're on they're basically like a cargo ship. So like you imagine space travel is more common. You're on a cargo ship. Basically, it would be sort of like the people who are on cargo ships, in like traditional ones in the water. Like,
right. So it's
you don't have to be a rocket scientist.
Yeah. At this point, space travel is commonplace.
Right. So you've got some like unsavory characters working they need a job. They're out here months carrying space rocks or whatever.
Yeah.
But Prometheus, it's a science team. And so, right, I mean, it starts with them getting out of stasis, basically, because they've been there like for 2 years to travel. After they get out of space stasis, they introduce themselves to each other, basically, which is kind of weird. They're meeting for the first time. But right away, there's the one guy, I think he's like a geologist. Right away, he's like being a jerk to people. He's like, oh, fuck you, I'm just here for the money or whatever. It's like, what? Like, they would have talked to this guy. What do you say?
An edgy boy.
Yeah, he's an edgy boy. He's got like face tattoos and stuff. It's like, they wouldn't have picked this guy for this expedition. And it was like an expedition for $1 trillion company, or the mission costs trillions of dollars. I'm guessing the company's bigger than that. But it's just so weird that they would have like random antisocial people who caused the downfall of the mission. So that's something I hate right away.
I didn't even think about that when I was watching the movie.
Oh yeah, it bothers me because like the thing is, they make the movie not thinking about that in a weird way. They just they prioritize characterizing these people, and I mean that's a lazy way to characterize having. Oh, the scene where everyone meets each other. This guy's like, oh fuck you, I'm just here for the money. It's like way to take the laziest route for characterizing this person.
Right.
But it makes even less sense in space. But you can sort of chalk it up to, well, it's so far in the future that space travel is so common that it sort of just happens. Whatever.
Sort of a drag to go to space.
Yeah. It's just like a car ride. Car ride they had to sleep for 2 years on. But I don't know. I mean, it suffers a lot from, and I don't know if it's really fair as compared to every other sci-fi and horror and every other kind of film, but it suffers from, I don't know, like, basically the characters make stupid decisions in order to advance the plot and the danger.
Right.
Which are decisions I don't think they would make as scientists exploring this alien. That get them all killed or whatever. I don't know. It's just like, it's very frustrating. I mean, one way you can justify it is say like, there's probably been millions of space expeditions, but this is just the one where everyone made the wrong decisions, and that's why it's the story.
Yeah,
right?
True.
So you can sort of be like, okay, but at the end of the day, it's just like, it's so stupid. Like,
I saw the movie a few years ago, so I don't really remember much, and I was very bored watching it. So probably remember even less because of that. But I remember there was a couple things that were particularly dumb. Like they saw that little alien thing in the cave, and the one guy or girl wanted to touch it.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
And then they, in how they were treating him too, right after he got bit or whatever, was dumb.
Well, I don't think so much that, but basically, the geologist guy who I mentioned before, who's like here to make friends, him and this other guy end up leaving the rest of the group when they find the body of one of the engineers. So he's like, oh, too spooky for me, I guess. Which is like another thing. It's like, you didn't screen this guy? Like, a first sign of danger. Party? Okay. So they start walking back to the ship. I guess they get lost, even though the geologist was the guy who sent out map drones, so he should have access to the map. I don't know why he got lost. But everyone else ends up running away. And him and the other guy end up left behind. So they're just wandering around, and then like a static storm starts up, and so the captain of the ship is like, hey guys, you guys stay there. We can't pick you up. We'll pick you up in the morning. So
is the captain the woman?
No. Sigourney Weaver. Right? No? Wait. No. That's Alien.
Yeah,
Um,
Numi, I don't know if it's Rapis or Rapasi, Rapace,
right.
Swedish woman.
I don't know. But no, she's like the company representative. The captain is Idris Elba.
Oh, okay. She's HR
Um,
basically.
basically, yeah. Um, so they're staying there overnight or whatever, and picks up another life form there, like a mile away or a click away from them, and they are freaked out. They're like, "Oh my god, there's something!" And so they're scared of something else there, and so they move in the opposite direction.
Mm-hmm.
Then when they get in the room where this little alien was that you were talking about, that one guy keeps approaching. When they get into that room and they see an alien, that one guy keeps on approaching it. And it makes no sense because literally the previous scene, they said, "Oh my god, there's movement. Let's move away from it."
Right.
And now this guy, this little like serpent thing, which is like the first form of the alien that's around later, is hissing at him, and he keeps trying to pet it. And then eventually it latches onto him and breaks his arm and basically kills him.
You ever try to pet a hissing cat?
Yeah, it's just stupid. Like that scene by its that scene by itself is stupid, but the fact that the previous scene was just, "Oh, there's something in here. I'm afraid. Let's wait." And then all of a sudden, it's like they weren't fucking thinking at all, honestly. Then just for the sake of, we need to have some die to these aliens so that we can plot along. It's like really lazy, stupid shit. And I'll just say the characterization of everyone else like doesn't happen. There's so many characters you don't know the names of. You know nothing about them. They end up dying anyway, so whatever. But like Idris Elba, he has like no characterization.
Right.
Like at one point he's playing an accordion, and then he asks the HR representative to fuck, and that's basically his character. He sacrifices himself at the end. So like, okay, he's a good guy, but like there's no.
And he's artistic too.
Is he?
Play the
because of the
accordion.
music. Yeah. Yeah, I don't get the significance of that, but yeah, so it's just like, and then of course there's the classic scene, which I think people have spoofed on a lot of when they finally meet the one living engineer inside the place that they visit. The android that's with him studied languages for years and years.
Yeah.
Tries to communicate with him, and the engineer's looking at him like he understands, and then he rips his head off and bashes the skull of the other guy with it, which is like very funny.
Uh-huh.
And I appreciate scenes like that where people sort of feel like, they know everything.
Yeah.
And so they're like confident in trying to communicate with something they know nothing about. And then it just completely kills them. Like that's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And well, it's kind of dark for me to say, right? But like that's interesting.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of the movie is interesting. Do you want to meet God, basically?
Yeah.
Because and if you meet him, do you think he's going to care at all? Like, what are you going to ask him?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't really go anywhere interesting with it, really. Outside of like, okay, the engineers made humans, but now they want to destroy them. I guess it gets expanded upon in the other, but like, it could have gone a million interesting directions, and it went none of them. It was just kind of like stupid action and bad writing, and that's basically it. And I said this to my brother during the movie, actually. It was like, it's kind of weird that like, so the engineers are basically like this race of creature who's they're humanoid, and they share DNA with humans.
Yeah.
But they're a lot bigger, and I guess they're a lot. But it's kind of a weird thing where like, just because they're advanced, for some reason, the movie makes them like really strong. you know,
Are we
like
talking about
it doesn't.
the blue people?
Yeah, the bald. And they're really pale, and then they're giants, basically.
Yeah,
Um, it's like it's kind of weird that a really advanced race would also have super strength.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because they're just like they're just like scientists, basically.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I didn't fucking get that, but it just leads to scenes where they're throwing people around, which is like, okay, I guess that's what people are coming to see it for. But I don't know. Kind of disappointed with that whole thing. But I feel like I will try to watch the other ones just so I trying to do with it.
Right. I think Alien Covenant also has Michael Fassbender in it.
Mm-hmm.
Cause like, oh,
That's the second time you said that now.
is it? No, the second one. No, I said the first one had Michael Fassbender. The first Prometheus, but Alien Covenant had him. Too.
Oh, okay.
Which is, I forget what happened at the end with him in Prometheus.
Wait, which one's Michael Fassbender?
David, the robot.
Oh, right. Okay, so that's an interesting thing too. Was once again, like, there was a million interesting ways it didn't really do it. So the end of the movie, I mean, this whole thing's been spoiled, so whatever. But the end of the movie is basically David's head has been ripped off, and the engineer used it to bash the head of the other guy. And the main protagonist, I can't remember her name, she ends up having to fight the engineer, and then eventually the engineer is killed by the other alien because she does kind of a tricky thing like the first Alien, opening the airlock sort of deal.
Right.
But then she's stuck on this planet because they had to sabotage the engineer's ship, so he went. And David, who's just the head at this point with his body removed, starts contacting her. And so she sort of has to, he says there's another ship. So she basically has to team up with him, even though earlier on in the movie, he basically tried to kill her.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, right? Because you throw in sort of like a Turing test thing.
Yeah.
Where it's sort of like, okay, what are the intentions of this android? So that's interesting in itself, but I don't think he's especially interesting. And I was kind of annoyed with his character anyway, because, like, I think he's an android. I can't remember. I guess he's not really an android because he's not human at all, because his head's been removed. He's still alive.
Yeah.
But because he just sort of had an attitude the whole movie, which I guess an AI could develop or whatever, but it just seemed odd.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, most things, I don't know. I have a lot of complaints about the movie, but they're not especially interesting. I guess the best summary is just there's a lot of interesting directions they could have gone with, the AI having its own intentions.
Yeah.
Sort of like the company has its own intentions with the mission that's different than the scientists, which harkens back to the first Alien. And they could have done interesting stuff with, well, what would happen if you met God? Would God even care about you? And sort of that also crosses over to the android thing, or the robot. I don't know exactly what you call him, but the way that, and they sort of shove this down your throat during the movie, but like the way that they created David is sort of the same way that the engineers created is probably, they don't really know. And so everyone's basically abusing David the whole movie because they're like, you're just a fucking robot, who cares? And so it's interesting to see the engineers basically.
No, I was gonna say it's a Detroit scenario.
Yeah, exactly. Where, like, Detroit, but then also add in God, basically.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, you treat what you've created with disdain, and then you're surprised when God does the same to you, sort of.
Right.
So that's an interesting thought in itself, but even though they mention it a lot, they don't, I don't know. I don't feel like they do it in an interesting way. But anyway, that's my review of a 7-year-old movie.
Okay. There was a recent development with an upcoming show. Well, first of all, I know you're a Lord of the Rings fan.
Yes.
Do you plan to watch the show?
Probably for my sanity, I won't.
Okay.
Just because I feel like, I don't know. I mean, this is Amazon programming.
I think Amazon.
It's just, I feel like the story's has been told multiple times. Yeah. I don't really think stretching it out for like I guess it's not necessarily stretched out because they're long books. Mm-hmm. But I don't see it being better than the movies, basically.
That's honestly probably a fair point, because the movies aren't even that old.
No, the Peter Jackson movies.
Yeah, I mean, is it enough time really to warrant a remake, even if it is a different platform?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, because even though the movies are basically 3 hours, they're so densely packed. There is a lot to explore there, but it's sort of just show formatting. I feel like is a lot less appealing to me in terms of storytelling than a movie structure is.
It's more time.
Yeah, obviously it can be done well, and there's lots of shows that I love, but I just feel like it doesn't have the same impact. And I also feel like it's way more likely to be influenced. Like, I feel like this show is definitely going to be influenced by, like, Game of Thrones or something. You know what I mean?
Probably. And, well, the guy they hired to be the director, it seems like he's got more of a horror background, from what I could see. And that might, I don't know if that plays in well or not, but it might help with the whole, you have Sauron's Eye, and you have the orcs and everything, so maybe it adds more suspense for those kind of scenes.
I mean, Lord of the Rings is surely, there certainly are plenty of horrifying things in it. I mean, when you watch it as a kid, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Where they stick with you. And I certainly had many, many fears brought on watching the. But once again, it's like show formatting, which I feel like. I don't know if this is necessarily true, but it's a feeling I get. Show. Like, a horror show is much less effective in creating fear than a horror. I think something about the episodic nature of it. Either way, not a horror, not a horror series, I'm sure.
No, probably not. Most likely,
probably just going for that fantasy look. But I don't know. I don't really have high hopes for it, and I wasn't really paying attention to it too much. I know it was announced or whatever. And now we've got do you remember the director's name?
J.A. Bayona. I think he's Spanish.
J.A. Bayona. So, I mean, I guess I'll keep an open mind. Uh-huh. Maybe I'll try it out. But, I mean, it's going to be probably years until it's out, right? I mean, if they've just decided on a director.
Yeah, it must be another year or two.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, I'll keep it on the radar, down low, because I do really like Lord of the Rings. I've been listening to the audiobook of the first book recently. But I think part of the curse of those movies is if you like them, other things are sort of like, oh, this isn't faithful. Which I say as a watcher of the movies and not books, which is kind of, but yeah, I don't know.
I mean, a lot of. I mean, it's got to come out soon because a lot of shows will want to take over that market, basically, that Game of Thrones has.
Yes.
Voided.
The hole that's been left.
Yeah.
What other fantasy show coffee cups and water bottles in?
Well, hopefully not The Witcher.
Yeah. Good transition. Um, when you ruin a presentation, but
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, after we saw the trash bag arm, uh, it's nice that a couple more pictures came out that really had Mark Hamill looking quite nice, actually, as Geralt.
Did you say Mark Hamill?
Yeah, I'm a fucking idiot.
I
Mark
don't know.
Hamill as Geralt. Henry Cavill. Let's be honest though, like the syllables sort of sound.
They do. Hamill and Cavill.
Mark Hamill. His bloated face.
That'd be funny.
Fuck me.
Well, it's funny because I told you, I think I told you that I think Mark Hamill would be a cool Vesemir or something.
I think you did mention that.
But yes, so anyway, they released those promotional pictures for Geralt, Yennefer, and Ciri. And definitely what those pictures did was reassure people that at least Henry Cavill would look pretty legit as Geralt.
Yeah. The impression I got from it was what annoyed me, well, not annoyed me, but what threw me off about sort of the original pictures they had posted of him. The wig he was wearing was like very like straight and clean and synthetic looking.
Yeah.
It sort of just looked like, you see a woman with a wig that is like sort of an unnatural hair color. That was sort of him in the hair.
Mm-hmm.
And his face shape looked like, that's not really, this time, at least in this picture, they had like, the hair looked realistic. And in proportion to his gigantic chin, it actually looked all right.
Yeah, I mean, the hair.
It sounds like a nitpick, but it is important.
Yeah, the hair looking a little weathered, I think, helps a lot.
Yeah.
Because knowing the profession that Geralt has, he's going to be weathered a lot of the time.
Yeah. And just the fact that weathering hair and not having it uniform makes wigs a lot less obvious.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was my main problem with his long hair.
Yeah, so a lot of people seem to be nitpicking, especially when it comes to the swords. The fact that he doesn't have two swords on his back, like the games.
Right, he doesn't have the iron and silver.
Yeah, so in the books he only carries one on his back and one on his horse.
Yeah.
Like the games doing the two swords on his back was a cool way of not having to go to your horse, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a nice look too, but I think in real life it's probably something that doesn't really work.
Well, yeah, you don't want another sword on your back. I mean, also in combat, you're basically giving your opponent a chance to grab a weapon from you.
Yeah.
And you just got this cumbersome thing on you. It is interesting because I think in many ways people will be coming into this as fans of the games, and when things aren't necessarily faithful to games, they're going to say, why is it this?
So I was watching this like a video reaction on the Witcher pictures from this YouTuber, and he was saying how he's a fan, and why not just give him the two swords? Most people watching this show are probably fans of the game anyway. Why not just give him the two swords on his back? Blah blah blah.
Kind of silly reason.
Yeah, and then what really annoyed me about this guy was he was talking about why not do this for the fans, do this, and maybe it's petty for me, but he was butchering every pronunciation from The Witcher. He was calling him Geralt. He didn't call it Rivia. He called it Rivia. He didn't know
Gerald of Rivia.
He didn't know how to say Kaer Morhen. I mean, these are the things he chose not to because he's like, I can't pronounce that.
It's not a hard thing to say, honestly.
Yeah,
and if you played the game, you heard it.
Yeah, that's exactly my point. Like, if you've played the game, you hear Geralt a lot. You hear Rivia a lot. You're going to hear Kaer Morhen. So I don't... maybe it's gatekeeping on my part, but...
Well, I mean, I think... Yeah. It is. But at the same time, it's like people. It's not really anyone's place to judge how much people are fans or whatever. And obviously, he's a fan because he's passionate about it. It's something to be faithful to the games or whatever. I mean, it's a valid opinion, but his opinion is wrong. And that's sort of showcased by he doesn't care enough to learn the pronunciation of words that are relevant to the series. So why would they care to have him have two swords?
Yeah,
which
exactly.
would, I think, honestly make the realism worse. So,
if anything, we get more Roach screen time if he has to go for his second sword, which is a win for me.
Half of the episodes are just him going back to the silver.
Winds howling.
Whoa, Roach!
They've got to do a couple.
Steady.
They've got to do a couple of the lines that he tends to say in the games. They've got to add those.
Like,
they must add winds howling. That's a good one. An easy Roach.
That just thinking of the silver sword sort of made me think about. I wonder how they're going to do the monsters. I wonder if they'll try to do it like if they're going to do like a lot of screen time and try to make them sort of practical, or if they're going to try to do them sparingly and just sort of focus on the characters.